fiery horse with the speed of light, a clod of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger. With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. Hi-Yo Silver! Hi!
The Lone Ranger and Tonto had been riding in the deep thicket of the hills that bordered the Oregon Trail. Then, for the first time that morning, they emerged into the open. Many minutes passed before the young mother was able to regain her composure. Her name was Nancy Austin, on her way to Fort Rodney, 100 miles to the west, where her husband was a civilian employee. 6 days before, in St. George consented to take her along.
They weren't afraid of what might happen on the trail. They just didn't want to take a woman along. But they did.
The wagon train reached Fort Cranston 2 evenings before and had remained there overnight.
When we left there, they told us how lucky we were to be going through now. That the trail was free from danger.
They must be new, those troops at Cranston. This trail is never free from danger.
They said the same thing at Clearwater Bridge this morning. The 4 soldier guards there.
You mean they didn't know there were Indians in the vicinity at all?
No, they didn't. It was hours after we left there, about noon, I judge, when one of the guards from the bridge galloped up to us. He was wounded badly, but he'd come to warn us that the Indians were on the warpath, heading in our direction. Hundreds of them.
They must have been waiting in the hills until your train passed Clearwater Bridge.
Yes, I suppose so. We never had a chance to escape them. The men could see the dust from the horses the Indians were riding as they neared us. And so they decided to circle the wagons and fight to hold them off. But first they hid me and the baby here. And they didn't hold them off.
No, I'm afraid you're the only ones who survived. The Indians are heading west along the trail. I wonder if there might...
Kimasabi.
What is it, Tonto?
While the Lone Ranger had been listening to Nancy Austin's story, Tonto had revived the unconscious warrior. Recognizing him for what he was, Tonto played upon his vanity, then taunted him, making little of his bravery, ridiculing him as a weakling without valor or knowledge of what he was doing. Smarting beneath the acid indignity of another red man's scorn, the young brave revealed all that he and his band had accomplished, told him of what was to happen with the coming of the next day. Tonto, in turn, revealed all to the Lone Ranger.
This Indian, he big Indian. Bravest wolf, only son crippled wolf. Cheyenne, chief.
He is? And what was he doing here alone?
quiet.
He's too important to his tribe not to have a guard.
Oh, him foolish, like many young Indians who want to be famous chiefs. Him send band on while him stay to get scalps. Him make scalps add up.
The savage. Where is the band he was with heading?
Him not say, but me guess. Them go to telegraph station west of here, 40 miles, maybe. Them kill men there, cut down lines between there, Fort Rodney.
Yes, you're right, Tonto. That's what they'll do.
Me sure, Kemosabe. Bravest Wolf say 5 great tribes meet near telegraph station. Tomorrow, 4,000 Indians. Then they march on Fort Rodney, kill soldiers, take over trail.
We'll have to act quickly then, Tonto. We must get help from Fort Cranston at once.
But Kemosabe,
Yes?
that's a good day's ride from here. Soon Indians take telegraph station, march on Fort Rodney, kill people there, get away before help comes.
Tonto, Eagle Cave is near here. You take this woman and her child and leave them there with provisions. No one will find them. You're going to ride back to Fort Cranston and get help. Meanwhile, I'll ride over the back trails and try to get to the telegraph station before the Indians do.
But what about this Indian, Bravest Wolf?
We can't kill him. We can't chance leaving him free to break those ropes.
Oh, him tied plenty tight, Kemosabe.
Good. I'll carry him on Silver with me.
Silver? You mean you take him on Silver with you to telegraph station?
Yes, Tonto. We'll get there in time. I hope. I've got another reason for taking him, too. You say Bravest Wolf is a chief's son, Tonto?
Ah, Kemosabe. Only son of chief. Biggest man in Indian nation.
His life's worth that of 1,000 other braves. That's what I've been thinking. Let's get started, Tonto. So take Mrs. Austin and hide her, and then you ride Eagle.
With the coming of the telegraph in the West, the government had joined with the telegraph company in providing stations along the Oregon Trail. One of these was about 40 miles west of the spot where the wagon train had been set upon. 10 men were stationed in the building built within the stockade on the road between Clearwater Bridge and Fort Rodney. Slim Hewson, the tobacco-chewing telegraph operator, came out of the building and walked over to Sergeant Zeb Kengis, leader of the 5 soldiers on duty there.
Hey, Sarge, something's up. I can't get through to the east at all. The line's is dead.
They are. And keep sending. They'll come to life again. Want to get some word from Cranston about that wagon train coming through this way.
I'm telling you, the line's dead complete, Sarge. Not a buzz. I'm afraid.
Oh, now, you're not going to tell me you're afraid the Redskins did it. You and your stories about Indians.
Yeah, me and my stories, yes. I've lived out here. I've seen them happen. I know how ornery the Indians get. And I know when they start acting up, they cut the wires first thing. Why wouldn't be so...
Sergeant King.
What is it, Farley?
There's a rider heading this way. Masked man on a white horse. He's carrying a redskin, it looks like, in front of him. I've had him in my field glasses since he come inside.
Mask man, huh? And get out of the stockade gate and keep him covered as he comes in. Take Whaley and Miller with you.
Right, Sergeant.
Masked man on a white horse. Sounds like it could be... Interesting. I wonder...
The Lone Ranger galloped into the stockade with his hands high in the air, covered as he was by the 3 soldiers who awaited him. Sergeant Kengis listened to the masked man's story, then dismissed it disbelievingly.
Sounds like something you made up, stranger.
Sergeant, I tell you, it's a matter of minutes. I rode around the band less than 2 miles from here. There are 200 of them. 200 at least.
Well, we'll see. Besides, we got a Gatling gun. And 1 Gatling gun equals 200 Indians. I don't believe you anyway. How could they get by Fort Cranston without us knowing before this?
Because they're Indians, and they're on the warpath. One look at that man on my horse should prove that to you. They've killed your men at Clearwater Bridge. And this man here says your telegraph wire's dead. What more proof do you want?
I think you'll find the masked man's telling the truth, Sarge. I think you better shut them gates and get your men and that Gatling gun ready. I told you before I was afraid.
Well, why haven't we
Only
been...
Indians the Sarge ever seen before he got sent here last month was in them Eastern medicine shows.
This Indian here on my horse may be important to us before another day has passed. Get him inside. See that he's guarded.
That don't make sense, stranger. Why should we...
Up in the hills, coming along the trail. Indians! Hey, get the gun out!
Close the gate! Get that Gatling gun in position, Whaley! To your posts, all of you!
They're beginning to ride around in a circle. Now don't shoot till they start to tighten it.
I'd better get a message to Fort Rodney in a hurry.
They haven't cut down the lines to there.
If they have, it looks like we're cooked.
You got that gun ready, Whaley? Get ready to use it.
Started shooting, now they'll close in.
Wait till they taste the bullets from a real gun. Where you heading for, stranger?
Don't worry, I'll be back to help you. You play your hand for a while with that Gatling gun. Taking our ace in the hole and hiding him inside. Oh, we're going to get you down off the horse now. Come on. There you are.
Hey, Sergeant Kangas.
What is it, Slim?
The wire to Fort Rodney. It's dead, too. We can't get through. The varmints have cut the lines to the west, too.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens now. Whaley, Miller, start using the Gatling gun.
It better be good. It better be better than 200 engines. If it's not, we're cooked. Cooked.
The curtain falls on the first act of our Lone Ranger story. Before the next exciting scenes, please permit us to pause for just a few moments. Now to continue our story. The Gatling gun, manned by Sergeant Kangus's men, had caught the attacking Indians by surprise.
Pull it back. Keep that gun playing on it, Whaley. Hold fire the rest of you. Let the fast gun do the work. Keep back. They're quitting fire.
The Gatling gun had become more than a weapon of defense now. It was an instrument of time. As the Indians continued to retire, the Lone Ranger spoke to Sergeant Kangus and Slim Hewson, the telegrapher. They were within the building where Slim kept his sending and receiving apparatus.
Sergeant, how much longer can your ammunition hold?
Not more than a day. Not even that if they attack us again tonight.
If I know my engine, Sarge, they won't. Not tonight. They'll look after that dead and wounded. But tomorrow? Well, now...
Tomorrow, according to what I've learned, there'll be thousands of them close by here. They decide to attack, their numbers alone are enough.
Yeah, that one gun wouldn't mean a thing.
Got to hold them off till my friend Tonto brings troops from Fort Cranston.
How many could they send? Not enough to stand off thousands of redskins all gunned up to fight?
They'll bring field pieces and Gatling guns.
They'll not get the field pieces here in less than 2 days. Tomorrow's the important time. We need help from Fort Rodney, too. Slim, do you have a sending set I can attach to an outside wire?
Huh? Well, sure, of course I have. Need them on this job.
May I borrow them overnight?
Do you mean to say that you can send messages, too?
Sarge, believe me, I'm surprised, too. But if the stranger here says he can, he can.
Then I can.
Well, that's enough for me. I'll get you what you want in a couple of seconds, mister.
But how are you going to get to where the wire's down?
You just have your men cover for me during the first few minutes. Silver will do the rest.
You leave right away?
As soon as it's completely dark. I'll get my horse ready now. But before I do, Sergeant, I'll tell you why that Indian bravest wolf may still be more important to us than Gatling guns, troops, or any other defense we have. He's a son of a great chief, and he presents a surprise package we can use for the showdown. If I'm not back by morning, I won't.
The Lone Ranger's sudden spurt from the stockade towards the west caught the Indian patrol in the hills by surprise. The second time, the unexpected had happened to them. Shots had been fired, and 3 horsemen attempted to follow him. But a fusillade of shots from the telegraph station, and most of all, the lightning speed of the great horse Silver, found the masked man riding off by himself. Not on the main trail, but on a lesser trail midway in the hills, running almost parallel with the great artery and with the telegraph poles that studded it. dawn was spreading in the sky overhead, and the first faint rays of the sun groped upward in the east. Suddenly, the guard peering through the gate of the stockade let out a yell.
The masked man! Slides like fury and coming in! Sergeant Kenyon! I hear you! Open that gate and let him in! The rest of you get in position! They're chasing him and they're coming his way!
The Lone Ranger had appeared as if from nowhere. Riding down from the wooded trail onto the main one, he guided the streak that was silver through a barrage of Indian bullets and was soon leading a chase in which Indian horsemen followed vainly. The stockade gate opened wide as the great white stallion flashed into the area, then closed as the Indians approached, to ride back in a widening arc as the defenders' bullets poured around them.
Oh, easy, steady, big fella. Sergeant Kangas, we got the message through. I found the break and made contact.
Good. The engine's been quiet all night.
Maybe they have, but they won't be much longer.
What do you mean?
I rode around to the hills. I stopped and watched the various tribes. They're all here. Most of them in those hills up there.
Can't we hold them off till help comes?
We can try. Help's still 12 hours away, if it's coming. There are thousands of them. They've been dancing all night, it seems.
That means attack?
That and what I saw a short time ago does. I'm mounted now and ready to move this way. They'll come slowly at first, small bands. The rest are there, whether you see them or not, ready to move in after.
My men are ready for them.
Those few Indians that followed me don't count. They're retiring already. First attackers should move in shortly.
Hold fire with that gun, Whaley! Hold it till you get orders! The rest of you keep alert. There's an attack coming. Save your ammunition.
That's the right idea, Sergeant. Well, I'm going inside and get our Indian bravest wolf.
You think using him will work? Is he that important?
If he's not, then nothing short of a miracle can save us.
The Lone Ranger had Bravest Wolf brought before him, keeping only his forearms tied behind his back. The wrist where he'd been wounded was bandaged and without hurt. At first, the young Indian remained calm as the masked man spoke to him in his tribal tongue. Whatever it was the Lone Ranger said, however, soon the Indian had a look of respect and fear in his hate-filled eyes.
It's not my intention to have you killed, Bravest Wolf, unless you try to trick me. Then you will die. And your great father will die, too. I promise.
Kura Mani Sotone.
The Indian attack began shortly after, just as the sun seemed to span its length from the hills in the east. For more than an hour, the defenders of the telegraph station, and above all that Gatling gun they used, inflicted many and increasing casualties on the encircling red men. Then it was that Private Miller came running back to the center of the yard, where Sergeant Kangas supervised the defense. The Lone Ranger saw the soldiers' worried approach and joined them.
What's the matter? Something wrong?
The ammunition for the Gatling gun's running out.
Got more than 100 rounds left, Sergeant.
And keep using it till it's gone. Get back there and tell Whaley.
Right, Sergeant.
Get your men ready to open the gate, Sergeant. I'm taking Bravest Wolf out into the open.
I can't see it, stranger. It'll never work.
It has to, or nothing else will. You'll have the gate open.
I will. Good luck.
Thanks.
A few minutes later, the Lone Ranger returned from the building where he had gone. The Indian, Bravest Wolf, still in war regalia, walked before him toward the stockade gate. The Indian held a white piece of cloth in his hand over his head. The sound of the gate opening and the sudden sight of the Indian and the Lone Ranger behind him caused most of the defenders to stop and gaze in amazement.
Hey, what's going on? They're opening the gate. That bomber's carrying the white flag. The masked man's right behind him. Men, hold your fire, all of you. Hold fire, I say. Those are orders.
Slim Hewson took his place beside Sergeant Kangas and joined the rest in watching the strange scene. Bravest Wolf walked outside the stockade, followed by the Lone Ranger. The Indians, riding around in a circle and shooting blindly, did not see the men at first. Somehow, neither was hit by the bullets that fell around them.
Sarge, that masked hombre's a cool one. Look at him.
He is, but he's never going to get away with this. Hey, look at those Indians.
Yeah, they're holding their fire. They're slowing their horses.
They recognize the engine all right, and they won't shoot. They won't fire at him.
And it's not because he's carrying that white flag either. He's the son of a great chief, and they won't let him die, never as a prisoner.
Listen, they're all stopping. What's that they're doing?
The first attacking Indians had recognized Bravest Wolf as he walked toward them, waving the white cloth. They stopped as if struck by lightning. In a few moments, the others had seen him too, and realized that he was the white man's hostage. As the dire realization came to them, they wailed the news to those behind them. And soon the word was passing along in one great swelling cry of the tragedy that was upon the son of crippled Wolf.
Wolf, tell them to give ear to what you have to say. I will be behind you and listen to your every word. One false move, you will die in dishonor before them.
Bravest Wolf had no alternative. He could not die except in battle or in honor. He had become a prisoner, and worse than this, had given his word to the masked man, the first white man who had ever intimidated him. He, Bravest Wolf, was as valuable to the Indian nation as his honor was to himself. And so, prodded once more by the Lone Ranger, he spoke. He told them to convey to the chiefs the message the Lone Ranger had prompted him to give them. And as he spoke, he could hear the words of the masked man behind him. The words he spoke to the red men in the tongues they knew.
And when they meet in conclave, they will send messengers to so advise us. Then the chiefs will meet us here at the same spot at sundown. They will bring with them unharmed all white women and children whom they hold as prisoners. They will guarantee safety to the men defending this station.
The chiefs of the 5 tribes met that afternoon and sent word to the masked man that the terms were acceptable. That evening, the chiefs appeared on the scene.
It is good that you have come, that you have brought back those whom you have held in captivity. But it is not enough that you have set these people free. If we return Bravest Wolf to you, it will be a token exchange, just as yours would be. Oh, wait. Don't ask my meaning. We've learned not to trust the words of men who so falsely made words of peace with a white man but a short time ago. Yes, Tonto?
The Lone Ranger looked up and greeted Tonto, who had walked upon the scene. It was evident they had seen each other earlier that day, and Tonto's words were all the masked man waited to hear.
Them come, Kemosabe, the men from Rodney.
Good. Wait, chiefs. You will receive justice, but there must be punishment given to Bravest Wolf and to those of your tribes who have killed wantonly and in cold blood. We have made a bargain. We will keep it. What punishment is given remains for the military to decide. You see, Chief, the United States Army takes over from this point. They arrived while you were preparing to come here this evening.
At that moment, as if by signal, from the east and west came the sound of bugles, and the troops from Fort Rodney and Fort Cranston rode down on the scene.
Look to the east and west. You will see. Your men will receive orders to surrender their arms. I'll make them do so. Else no Indians may remain to learn what justice is.
Within an hour, the Indians had surrendered their arms, and their chiefs had been taken into custody by the army, their punishment, personal and tribal, to be decided after due trial. Nancy Austin, who had been taken from her hideaway cave by Tonto as the troops headed westward, was now on the scene. Holding her baby, she listened to Sergeant Cangus and Slim Hewson finish the telling of their story to the leaders of the troops from both forts.
Getting the message through was as important as the Gatling gun. But if he hadn't used that Indian Bravest Wolf as a hostage...
we'd have been cooked. Not only us, but every person between here and Fort Rodney. Could be he saved all we want in the West, far as I know.
That's right. You keep talking about him, but nobody mentions his name. Who is he, anyway?
Doggone lady, ain't you guessed? Sergeant did after I prompted him a little. Didn't you, Sarge?
I sure did. And I'm proud to tell you, lady, that's the Lone Ranger.
This is a product of the Lone Ranger Incorporated, created and produced by George W. Trendle, directed by Charles D. Livingston, and edited by Fran Stryker. The part of the Lone Ranger is played by Brace Beamer.